Welcome back to Lesson Mentor. Today you will be using the eyedropper tool and the paint bucket tool to complete this challenge. It's an underwater scene with lots of sea creatures in it, and your objective will be to color it all. It'll be a challenge of patience and creativity. I know you can do it. Let's go through the directions. Number 1, open this document using Photoshop. Number 2, select colors from the photos on the left using the eyedropper tool. Number 3, apply the selected colors to the drawing below by using the paint bucket tool. Number 4, you can only use the colors found in the images on the left to add color to the drawing below. However, use of the paintbrush tool is okay. Tips: use the opacity slider on the paint bucket tool to change the intensity of a color, allowing for a wider color palette. Use keyboard shortcuts to quickly move from one tool to another. On the left, you'll find 3 images that are a representation of colors that you would find in the ocean or sea, and that is the color palette that you're limited to for your ocean water scene. I will get you started, and then you will finish however you decide to do so. You do not have to use the same colors that I am using for each of the items. You can choose that for yourself. You will want to make sure that your Photoshop workspace is set to Essentials. If you are unsure, just go up to Window, Workspace, and if Essentials is checked, you're good to go. If not, you can reset Essentials.
Now that we know that we're set to Essentials, if you have your paint bucket tool, it's not showing here, maybe it's your gradient tool, you can go ahead and switch to your paint bucket tool so that it's at the front. That way when you use your keyboard shortcut, it will switch to your paint bucket tool for you. So switching back and forth between the paint bucket tool and the eyedropper tool will be the challenge here, along with your limited color palette. So let's begin. Pick whatever image you want. I will use this kind of purple on the last one here and use my paint bucket tool, switch to that keyboard shortcut, and I'm going to drop in that purple on the well. Then I can switch back to the eyedropper tool and maybe grab a lighter color of that purple, back to the paint bucket, and begin doing the bottom part. As you're painting, be careful of the black lines that are outlining the animals here, the sea creatures, because what will happen if you accidentally click on it, because that black is outlining everything, you'll turn your document that color. But that's okay. You can easily undo that by doing Command and the letter Z or Control Z and go back, and then continue. For the smaller spaces, if you just zoom in, then you should be able to pop that color in with your paint bucket tool. If I zoom out, I can see what that well is looking like. Before I continue with the color, there might be an instance where you need to use your paintbrush tool in your image. On the right hand side here, there are some bubbles that are on maybe this starfish here. So what would happen if I decided to paint the starfish is I'm going to also paint that bubble. So I'm going to pick up maybe some of this yellow color-ish, that's starfishy, switch to my paint bucket tool and drop in the color. So as we see, this bubble has also turned to the shade of yellow that this starfish is, and I don't want that. So what I need to do is close that circle. So I'm going to Command Z or Control Z and go back. I'm going to switch to my eyedropper tool and pick up this color black, because it's not true black. We can see when you use the eyedropper tool, it's a little lighter than black. Grab that and then switch to my paintbrush tool. That brush is probably the appropriate size, and I can just close the loop. The eyedropper tool, grab some of that yellowish color, orangey color, and go back to the starfish with the paint bucket tool. If I drop that color in, now that loop is closed. And if I wanted to use a different color in there, such as maybe some of the blue, then I can paint the bubbles without affecting the starfish. All right, so I'm gonna switch back to my eyedropper tool. Maybe I like this color purple and want to use it again. Just click on it. Then I can drop that color in elsewhere. Now, if you get into a situation where you've kind of gone through multiple times on your images and you feel like you've overused colors, you can change that by going into the color. So I can use this same color purple or hue of purple And maybe on this octopus, I want to use that. Okay, that's too much, right? So I'm going to go back, Command Z and undo. So what I can do instead to stay in the same color palette is to go up to my opacity slider and take that down to maybe 50% and drop in that color. So now I'm still within purple of the purple because we've adjusted the opacity, which means that it's not so saturated if we use it now. So if you want to expand your color palette, that's the way to do it. So maybe I want this yellow. Use my paint bucket tool, drop the yellow in. That's at 50% opacity. If I take it up, then I can get a more saturated yellow. So this is the objective, to limit yourself to this color palette. If you want to add more colors to your color palette, use your opacity slider to do that. Fill in all of the objects with color. And if you decide you want to change the color of something, you can do that easily by just clicking back on it with a different color, as long as that color is not black. Again, stay away from that. And then you can explore all the different colors and shades within your image till you get the color palette that you want. So let's see how you complete this assignment. And when you're finished, turn it into your teacher as they have requested. If you enjoyed this tutorial, stay tuned for the next one.